Nithyanandam Paramasukhadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrusham Tattvamasya Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami.
Nithyanandam, everybody. We welcome all the Paramashivoham level 1, 2 and 3 participants, and we welcome all the viewers and all the participants who are seated with us from all across the globe who are tuning in today. And we today wanted to share with every one of you about some of the exciting news that we were able to present to the United Nations. Once again, Kailasa represents in the United Nations, this time in the United Nations headquarters of the Environment Program, the UNEP, where the United Nations Environment Assembly is actually going on. And yesterday, we had actually represented, Kailasa had represented its stance on the triple planetary crisis, which is the main agenda, which is the main focus of the UNEA 6, which is currently going on. Myself, Srinitya Sundareshwarananda, with me we have Srinitya Premaswarupananda and Srinitya Mangalananda. All three of us had actually represented at the UNEA 6, and we wanted to share our experience about attending the event and also present you furthermore facts. We also have a couple of other events that are lined up today, which also we'll be sharing about very shortly. So let's hear from Mangala Maharaj and Premaswarupa Maharaj, after which we'll enter into looking at what actually happened there as well. Yes, Premaswarupa Maharaj, you could go ahead. Just give an introduction to yourself for all our viewers and you can share.
Yes, Maharaj. Myself, Srinitya Premaswarupananda. I am a Balasant of the Nithyananda Gurukul and I've been with Swamiji for the last 13 years. And yesterday I was blessed with the opportunity to represent Kailasa at the UNEA 6 in Kenya, Nairobi. And we represented Kailasa and we had an opportunity to represent Kailasa through this aspect, and we three from Kailasa we had represented, and yes.
Thank you. Yes, Mangala Maharaj, go ahead.
Yes. So as you're all probably aware already that yesterday it was a very wonderful experience to begin with. One of the things which really stood out to me when when we are interacting with diplomats and with all the various dignitaries who had come for the event was their pleasant surprise, so to say, the pleasant surprise and the astonishment on hearing the contributions which the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has done over the last 27 years. And so that is something which really stood out, because for us we've been seeing it for many years now, and for me it's been more than a decade, seeing the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism day in and day out, and all the hard work happening in so many different locations, happening in so many different continents. And so just sharing these facts, sharing these projects and all the initiatives taken by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism for sustainable world, for protecting the environment, for protecting the Mother Earth, the Bhumi Mata. It was so wonderful to see so much of positive reciprocation back in terms of the positive the initiatives being taken by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, and for everyone it was more like a pleasant surprise, so to say, where because you don't hear or you don't see this kind of hard work being done by many people, and it's very rare to even hear about these things.
Actually, that's very true. Yesterday when we actually presented about Kailasa, at the first there were a lot of statesmen who were there. We had a lot of ministers who had come in, and yesterday the event was also graced by the First Lady of Kenya, Her Excellency Ms. Ruto, and she had actually graced the event as well, for whom we also got an opportunity to pay our respects and also share the vision that the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has given, and not just the vision that has been given, but how the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has made this as a working model, as a successful working model, which is what the United Nations, especially the United Nations Environment Program, which is working towards tackling what they call the triple planetary crisis, which is the main agenda, once again, as I told earlier, and how the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, through the holistic approach, has made a successful has made a successfully working model which can be replicated in multiple countries, already in over 100 spiritual embassies around the world. And this was very well taken by the United Nations Environment Program, by the UNEA Assembly as well, with various dignitaries such as the ministers. We had ministers from various parts of the world. We had ministers from Colombia, we had ministers from Nigeria, we had ministers from Botswana, we had from Zambia, from Malawi, and so many other places. So we had a lot of dignitaries who were there, and we also had a lot of private sector businessmen who had also come into the picture, where because a lot of funding comes in from there, so they also wanted to hear the perspective to say, okay, who is actually able to contribute to the vision, who is actually able to bring in a real working change, because there are a lot of startups, there are a lot of events, there are a lot of initiatives, but who actually is able to bring a tangible output, who has already shown it, because many things are still in discussion. The UN provides a platform to every one of us, to all the various groups around the world, to showcase or to pitch in their ideas, but there are very few who have already established the successful working models, and yesterday was one of that. And recognizing this, the UNEA, the United Nations Environment Assembly, has also published a feature, Kailasa, in their webpage as well, which very clearly indicates and which very clearly showing that this model established by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, taking a holistic approach, where the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism very beautifully shares about how it is care over cure. Because yesterday a lot of discussion was towards about how we can look at the analysis, we can look at the data, which is all based on the cure aspect of it, that we have already damaged a lot. Now, how do we cure it? Now, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has always emphasized on care, where before you cause the damage, start taking the action, and that by nature will ensure that even the cure starts happening. Let's take a few moments to look at the video that was relayed live on the UN TV, about where we got an opportunity to share about the initiatives from Kailasa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alpha. Dear Excellencies, distinguished delegates, and panel members, my name is Sundareshwara. I represent the United States of KAILASA, which is the first nation for Hindus revived by the sovereign of KAILASA, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, BHAGAVAN SRI NithyanaNanda PARAMASHIVAM. And one of the important points that were discussed by all of you is the key importance of partnership. And towards this, the sovereign of Kailasa, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, has been tirelessly working over the last 27 years through a worldwide movement in over 100 different countries towards the healthy planet, and taking a holistic approach through the Hindu tradition. And there have been several green initiatives towards this. And the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has also envisioned care over cure. I guess that is where the early warning systems come into the place as well. And in our tradition, we look at planet Earth as Mother Earth. So the very approach that we take in the Hindu tradition, by very nature, is to protect it. And through the holistic approaches, we have seen very, very positive changes to the extent that we are able to mitigate any disasters just through the holistic approach. So I did hear from many of you distinguished panelists where the data sets and the space agencies as to how it is coming in, but I also feel another important component to this is the holistic approach. And some of the initiatives by Kailasa, by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, for example, the Clean Air Initiative, which is basically an initiative by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, planting flora all over the spiritual embassies in over 100 countries around the world. And similar initiatives such as Go Zero Waste, Say No Plastic, Reuse Food in Agriculture, Go Vegetarian, Ishanya Project, and so on. So I also want to just pitch in over here is that Kailasa is actually working to bring back the planet Earth through its full glory through the Healthy Planet Initiative, and looking to see that a holistic approach is also one of the key importance as being revived by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You all would have looked at the video, which was just played for all of us. So this was the representation from Kailasa that was made during the event, which was streamed live for every one of us on the UN TV. And over this, we had very high-level talks with the various ministers that were present. with the various statesmen, with the various representatives and the high-level dignitaries of the United Nations, whether it is the Director General of the UNEP, the Director General of UNON, the Director General of UNEA, where they gave their listening to understand, okay, how does it work on a large scale? How do we replicate this on a large scale? Because there are a lot of working models which work on a shorter scale. And there are also things which work on a larger scale but take a lot of time, which is not instantly where we are able to implement things around the world. But the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, out of a sheer hard work and tireless effort, tireless hard work towards establishing this science of the Hindu Sanatana Dharma by reviving Kailasa, which is the first nation for Hindus, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has made these very concepts that today we are fighting around the world for, that today is actually threatening the very existence of the planet Earth itself. All the issues that are there, all of these things have been addressed by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, and by the teachings of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, by the inspiration of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, millions around the world are now living and practicing this, making this as a successful, working, sustainable model which can be replicated everywhere. And we also had a chance to meet with various dignitaries explaining this same to all of those dignitaries around. And once again, we got the invitations to attend the further events of these high-level discussions that are going on, through which they're actually drafting a couple of resolutions. We'll be sharing further down in the days as well. So the UNA is actually drafting various resolutions towards tackling the triple planetary crisis, and Kailasa's inputs have been become one of the major parts which is actually contributing to these drafts that are being made now. And I'd like to hand over back to Sri Nithyananda Maharaj to share some more experiences about like this is your first time that you're attending the UN event and representing Kailasa. Maybe you could share with all of our viewers about how you felt and what is your learning from that.
One thing, Maharaj, as you were sharing the teachings which Swamiji has instilled in us, and one of them, the thing which at least breaks the initial ice to go and have a conversation, is the unabashedliness of being a Hindu. Right. Swamiji himself leading by example and in emphasizing and sharing with us the importance as well. Just by, I'm sure you all would have seen the photos, and it's just such a great one. We are representing Hindu tradition and Sanatana Hindu Dharma unabashedly, and it's also a great way for breaking the ice and starting a conversation when actually people are curious, they want to know more, and it garners a lot of respect as well, because while people are coming from different backgrounds and different ethnicities, not many people are coming and having the pride of their tradition, of their culture, something which Swamiji has instilled in all of us by himself being unabashedly Hindu. And so that is one of the big focal points, because practicing inside is one, but when you go outside and we start interacting and meeting with people, then only you truly understand the depth and the level of which Swamiji's contributions are happening in multi different directions, in multi different places. Something simple as following the agamic lifestyle, following the agamic way of dressing. It is not just for, there are so many spiritual benefits, so many personal benefits and health benefits. And apart from that, the tradition which you're standing for, the culture which you're representing, which Swamiji is, which the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is actively reviving. But also on a global stage, it speaks volumes to who the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is and what Kailasa stands for. And so one of the major breakthroughs, the major clicks which I personally had from this whole experience is we speak about Kailasa, and speaking is one, but when you actually go and stand there wearing the whole Tirumula Varkavedam and speak about Swamiji, share what Swamiji has contributed to the world, it's a whole completely different experience. You may have spoken about it, you may have spoken about it to multiple different people, have shared in multiple different, as I myself have done in multiple different presets and segments, but presenting it on the world stage is something of a different experience altogether. In many ways, it's like pre-satsang, but at a different level, so to say, where you completely are no more you're representing the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, you're representing Kailasa, and Swamiji himself is flowing through you. In a way, it's actually another power manifestation exercise, so to say, where you allow Swamiji where you allow yourself to become a channel for Swamiji to express through you. And many of the cases it's like that, because you can, how much ever we know about Kailasa, it is the moments when you're there, when you're standing and when you're representing, the words just flow through you. The words flow through you, and you may have practiced or presented a number of times, but just standing there, the words automatically flow through you. Swamiji automatically flows through you. And so even in a spiritual sense, even in a personal level, it is, you're manifesting more of Swamiji, so to say.
Beautiful. Actually, that's a very important point. Yes, Premaswarupa Maharaj, go ahead.
Yes. So as Mangala Maharaj was sharing about Swamiji manifesting through you even in that time, it is just an experience that each and every one has. It is the initiation that each and every one has received from the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism after the initiation of Sannyas. That is the most powerful experience, where where the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism just manifests through you and says the right things to be said. That is what is the most beautiful things over there, because each and every word that was uttered, it was literally making an impact on each and every person over there, giving them the experience of what Sanatana Hindu Dharma has to contribute to the whole planet Earth. That is what is the experience that each and every one of us had in this event.
And just like how Premaswarupa Maharaj was sharing, I wanted to share my experience as well in this personally. Representing on a world stage, representing at the headquarters of the United Nations Environment Program in Nairobi, Kenya, is actually a very different experience, so to say. And when I actually look back at this, right, the most important thing are the things that Swamiji, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, has made as a very core component of our very life. So it doesn't feel something different. Rather, you just know this is what you're living. And when you understand, when you go outside and when you meet with people to understand, okay, what is actually the problem out there? And when you understand that what you're living is the solution for the problems out there, which are being spent millions and billions of dollars and trying to figure out what are the ways to do it, just by the very life of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has made it an experience for each and every one of us without even the slightest difficulty of pain, just through the inspiration of what exists. I've been in the Nithyananda Gurukul, I've graduated from the Nithyananda Gurukul, and back when we were in the Nithyananda Gurukul, Swamiji always gave us these visions about how we would represent in the United Nations, how we would be speaking in these world stages, world forums, and how we would be representing on the international stage, handling and tackling the actual problems of the world around various different headquarters, around various different agencies like the United Nations. And today, we see this as a representation. Just a week before, we had represented at the United Nations Youth Assembly, the UNY. So the Youth Assembly we had actually represented. And yesterday, we got an opportunity to represent for the Environment Assembly as well. And we're also having another event that is coming up just tomorrow, and we'll be attending that as well. We've been invited for that as well. So we'll be attending that event too. But the thing here is that what Swamiji spoke about, the very grooming right from the young age, the ideas that Swamiji has instilled, the ideas that Swamiji has made as part of our life, not only gives us the ability and the powerfulness to handle the situations in our own life, whether you have a problem, or whether you want to achieve something, or whether you want to make something a reality, Swamiji has made the very core understandings of the core cognitions with which we live as the fundamental basis of solving the problems inside and outside on a micro scale, which is for my own life, and also on a global scale, which is for the entire world here together. So that was actually a very beautiful, I would say a click, or I would say something that I felt to understand about it, because what I spoke was what my experience was. It was not like something different from what I am living or what I have been living all this while. So it was a very beautiful experience. And for all our viewers who are sitting with us all around the world, you also have a beautiful opportunity to join the Nithyananda Gurukul, to put your kids, to put your grandchildren in the Nithyananda Gurukul. It's ecitizen.info /Gurukul. You can register yourself for having your kids join the Nithyananda Gurukul register, where these ideas, where these thought currents, where these powerful cognitions are made into a reality, are stitched into the very fabric while the kids are growing itself. So tomorrow they become stewards of leadership on the world platform, just like how we are representing today. And again, once again, we are at very initial stages. where we are representing, but the very initial stages itself, there's such a big reciprocation from the United Nations, wherever, in whichever agency of United Nations that we represent. And we are really looking forward to see this growing further and further. So once again, all the viewers who are watching us live, have your kids join the Nithyananda Gurukul. If you'd like to register and learn more about Nithyananda Gurukul, you can register yourself at ecitizen.info/Gurukul. And similarly, if you'd like to become the spiritual ambassadors of Kailasa, where you can go and represent Kailasa in those various platforms, you can also do that by registering at ecitizen.info/spiritual ambassador. So you can actually register in both of these links. For the Nithyananda Gurukul, you have the age limit, and for the spiritual ambassadors, you do not have an age limit. You can represent because there are various other collaborations with the United Nations that we are continuously working along on. So you can register yourself to become a spiritual ambassador of Kailasa, and we will train you, we will help you understand, and we will give you an opportunity to represent the United States of Kailasa, the first nation for Hindus revived by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. So you will have an opportunity to represent Kailasa. So once again, I think this is a very brief session that we wanted to bring to you today, as we are also getting ready to attend the next event in just a couple of hours from now. And you can be sure to hear a lot more news that will be coming up, and elaborate more sessions and segments where we share further insights about what has been happening, what are the contributions, what are the collaborations between the United Nations and Kailasa, and how we are looking forward to take this further as well. So once again, thank you everybody for tuning in, and we thank all the Paramashivoham participants, the level 1, 2 and 3 participants also for tuning in for today's session. So once again, if you'd like to have your kids join the Nithyananda Gurukul, please make sure that you sign up at ecitizen.info/Gurukul. And if you would like to represent Kailasa on these world stages, ecitizen.info/spiritual ambassador. So please go ahead, register yourself, and we shall see you again soon. Let's now go to the next segment shortly. Thank you.